Hi, yes, hello, thank you for calling. How may I pretend to be a person today? Have you ever smiled so hard in a headset that your jaw started planning a coup? Like, have you ever felt the urge to structure fuck a manager while saying, absolutely, I understand, in the same breath? Because that's the quiet villain origin story right there. Not the cape, not the eyeliner, the fucking Outlook calendar. Office drone life where every per my last email is just a suppressed war cry with a signature block. Kind regards is basically a threat in Sweden. It's a dagger with a smiley face. And today we're doing the quiet villain thing with the most elegant bastard we have, Deraven Blackthorn, Malmo's vampire cop who looks like he'd arrest you for breathing wrong and then apologize for the inconvenience.
Can we just admit your customer service voice is the real horror content? Like, people think a lord is this big, dominant executioner thing, but no. You were forged in telemarketing hell as a polite little puppet. Hi, do you have a minute? Yeah, a minute to die. And that's why I love this topic, because the quiet villain isn't loud. It's not the guy screaming in the comments. It's the person who swallows disrespect for years and then one day smiles and collects the debt with interest. I used to be nice Lena, blonde, trying to be wanted, trying to be harmless. And it turns out being harmless is basically an invitation for basement bullies to test their luck. So you stop being nice, not because you're evil, but because you're tired of being a free punching bag with good manners.
People hear quiet and they think weak. That's the mistake. Quiet is usually restraint or calculation. The loud ones are broadcasting insecurity. The quiet ones are measuring distance, exits, witnesses, consequences. They're not frozen. They're choosing not to waste energy. I've watched grown men mistake silence for permission, and it's always the same pattern. They talk, they inflate, they perform, and then they're shocked when the room turns on them. The predator doesn't announce itself. It just waits until you step close enough to make it efficient. That's the origin story. Not tragedy, not drama. Just the moment you realize most people are noise, and you stop rewarding it.
Okay, Deraven, let me do the polite interrogation. Sir, thank you for joining Warcast. First question, why does the band's most elegant member spend his days dealing with the social media prostitutes of the Malmo streets, the ones who live stream their own stupidity like it's a public service? Because you look like you should be sipping red wine in a velvet coffin, not writing reports about some alpha-ass clown who thinks I pay taxes is a personality. And don't give me the heroic answer. I want the ugly one, the mundane disgust. The I can't unsee how mediocre people get rewarded answer. Because that's where quiet villains are born, in fluorescent lighting, not thunderstorms.
You want the ugly answer? Fine. The legal system is a relationship built on convenient lies. People don't want truth. They want a story that lets them sleep. Criminals lie because they're criminals. Normal people lie because they're cowards. And the system lies because it needs to keep functioning. I didn't become a cop because I believed in justice. I became a cop because someone has to stand between the worst people and everyone pretending it won't happen to them. And the origin wasn't a single tragedy. It was repetition. Watching the same type of idiot get away with mediocrity every day. Watching victims get questioned like suspects. Watching confidence beat competence. That kind of disgust doesn't explode. It condenses. It becomes quiet.
And that's the part people don't get. They think villain equals loud, dramatic, unstable. No. The quiet villain is the one who remembers everything. The date, the tone, the little smirk, the joke that wasn't a joke. They keep receipts like it's a religion. And honestly, that's why anal politeness in corporate Sweden is so poisonous, because it forces you to swallow it. You're not allowed to react like a human. You're supposed to react like an anal manual with legs. Stay professional. Translation, let them disrespect you in peace. That's a nuclear compliance attack on the soul. You either rot into depression, or you turn into a monster with perfect posture and a smile that means run.
Let me demonstrate for the sinners. Imagine a customer goes, "Hi, I'm unhappy with your service. And I go, in my nicest voice, oh no, I'm so sorry you feel that way. Can you tell me what happened? And they say, you didn't do what I wanted. And I go, absolutely, I hear you. So just to confirm, you're upset because reality didn't obey your imagination. And if they push, I go, perfect, then we've identified the issue. Your expectations are unqualified, uncertified, and currently not supported by the laws of physics. Anything else I can help you with today? That's word Aikido. Agree, smile, then twist the blade so they thank you for the insult. That's how you survive years of office drone rot without committing a felony.
That's also how interrogations work when you're not an idiot. You don't interrupt. You let them talk. Most people will hang themselves with their own words if you just stop feeding them attention. My silence on the job isn't politeness, it's weight. I let criminals explain their logic, and I watch where it breaks. Then I structure fuck them with their own timeline, their own contradictions, their own I was just excuses. They think I'm calm. I'm not calm. I'm controlled. There's a difference. And the quiet villain scares people because there's no warning, no heat, no performance. Just a verdict arriving in slow motion.
And that's why Venomous Sin declares war isn't a call to literal violence before some comment corpse starts hyperventilating. It's a refusal. Refusal to use the anal manual of social etiquette to spare fragile egos. Like, if you treat people like shit, you don't deserve a soft landing. You deserve consequences with good lighting. And I know exactly how monsters get made because I watched it happen in me. That bathroom moment in my past, that hygienic homicide of who I used to be. It wasn't empowerment. It was the end of being safe. The end of thinking nice would save me. It didn't. It just made me easier to target.
And since we're doing origin stories, yeah, I'll say it. The Lord exterior is a shield. Under it is the fat Spanish kid who learned early that if you react like a victim, they'll keep going. So you build self-irony like armor. You make yourself the joke first, then you trap them in it. That's why I don't do please like me. I do watch me not give a shit. And me and Lena, we're karma fucked together because neither of us fits the normie fucked mold of a happy couple with matching dinner plates and a shared Pinterest board. We're poisoned embrace history. We don't do healed and wholesome. We do still standing, still laughing, still dangerous.
Final verdict then. The world fears the quiet villain more than the screaming rebel because the rebel is predictable. The rebel wants attention. The quiet one wants outcome. Precision beats volume. The quiet one doesn't need witnesses. They don't need applause. They just need time. And when they move, it's final. That's why people get uneasy around someone who's calm while being disrespected. They can feel it. They know they're being measured. They know they might already be losing, and the only thing left is the moment it becomes visible. That's the black metal Terminator part, I guess. Not emotionless, just done.
All right, switching back to my office sales voice to close the deal. Thank you so much for listening today. Your call is very important to us, and as a courtesy, we're offering a complimentary fuck you vaccine to anyone still waiting for a polite ending. Side effects may include self-respect, boundaries, and an uncontrollable urge to stop explaining yourself to idiots. And Deraven, thank you for joining, you elegant menace. Sinners, drop a comment. When did your quiet villain arc start? Was it a boss, a partner, a friend, or just one too many kind regards? Next episode, we're going deeper into the difference between silence and submission, because people keep confusing them, and it's honestly adorable.
Yeah, and listen carefully, sinners. If you're in a room with a quiet person who's smiling, maybe stop talking for 2 seconds and ask yourself if you've already been crucified by the conversation and you just haven't felt it yet. Because the quiet ones don't always leave. Sometimes they stay. Sometimes they learn you. Sometimes they let you think you're winning. And then one day you're like, why did everyone stop respecting me? And it's because you trained them to. So tell us in the comments, did you ever mistake someone's silence for weakness and then realize, too late, it was restraint? And if you did, good. Pain is educational.
First, our weekly war declaration. Venomous Sin declares was on the Swedish social services, Socialtjänsten, whatever polite name they tattoo on the folder. You stay quiet for years because you're trying to keep the temperature down for the kid, right? You bite your tongue, you do the grown-up thing, you keep it practical. And then the day you finally speak up, the day you finally go, this isn't okay, I need help, I need action, that's when they suddenly need more information. Now it's, we can't really do anything. Now it's, both parents have different perspectives. Now it's, we sense conflict. Yeah, no shit, it's a conflict. That's why I called Captain Spreadsheet. And the pattern is obvious. Delayed reaction is institutional self-protection, not child protection. Silence gets interpreted as no issue. Your first boundary becomes escalation. And then they can file you as difficult instead of handling the actual risk. It's not a safety net. It's a liability net.
And this is where I have to roast you. Because you go into your customer service voice like you're calling to cancel a gym membership, not talking about a child's reality. You do that, hi, yes, hello, thank you for your time, tone, like you're trying to seduce the system into behaving like a system. It's adorable. It's also depressing. Because that mask is what they demand to treat you like human. You're supposed to sound calm enough to pass their anal manual while describing things that are objectively not calm. Like, hello, yes, I'm being used, manipulated, and guilt-gasmed through logistical details, but let me say it with a warm smile and neutral vowels so you don't think I'm emotional. Oh, sorry, did my nervous system offend your paperwork? And the best part is when you finally drop the mask for 1 second, they go, we experience you as aggressive. No, they experience you as inconvenient. They experience you as not swallowing it anymore.
Exactly. And let me be clear, because the system loves when you get vague and then they can turn you into a vibe. The betrayal is that they treat your restraint as consent. If you didn't scream earlier, it couldn't have been that bad. That's the logic. It's like saying if you didn't call the fire department while you were still politely cooking dinner, the house wasn't burning. Meanwhile, the kid's the one inhaling smoke. And the delayed reaction has a purpose. If they react fast, they admit the case is serious, and then they own it. They have to document, they have to decide, they have to possibly upset someone who can complain. If they delay, they can nudge it into parental conflict, and then suddenly it's not a protection issue, it's a mediation fantasy. And the moment you set a boundary, they can write difficult parent, high conflict, and boom, the system just structure fucked your credibility with one checkbox. So yeah, you speak up and they don't hear help, they hear work.
It's predictable. Officials are human, and humans are lazy in patterns. The system rewards the calm manipulator because the calm manipulator is easy to process. They speak in reasonable sentences, they drip poison with a smile, and they hand over a neat little story. The late reporter, the parent who finally cracks after years of restraint, shows up with heat, with urgency, with that edge in the voice that says, I can't do this alone anymore. And the system reads that as instability, credibility theater. The one who performs stable gets believed. The one who looks stressed gets pathologized. It's backwards, but it's convenient. Emotional control becomes a proxy for truth. Visible stress becomes a proxy for unreliability. Even though stress is a normal response to prolonged pressure and constant reframing. And there's another piece people don't like. If they label it conflict, they don't have to pick a side. And not picking a side protects the institution. It's risk management disguised as neutrality. It's not evil, it's cowardice with a badge.
Observation, incentive structure. Minimize workload, minimize liability, maximize procedural compliance. If case is simple, process. If case becomes complex, reframe as parental conflict. If parent presents urgency, request more information. If parent presents emotion, mark high conflict. If parent presents boundaries, mark uncooperative. Outcome: the institution preserves stability of its own operations. Child protection becomes secondary when it increases organizational cost. System malfunction detected. Action required. Correction. Additional note: silence is interpreted as baseline safety. Late reporting is interpreted as strategic behavior, not accumulated endurance. This is not logic. This is pattern matching to reduce internal friction.
And that's the villain origin story right there. Not rage first, endurance first. You swallow comments, you swallow compromises, you swallow little manipulative reframes until your nervous system learns war like it's a second language. And people around you call you calm because you don't explode. They don't understand you're just storing it like a fucking battery. And then one day you stop asking nicely. Not because you want revenge, but because you finally see the pattern. Asking nicely teaches them you can be ignored. So you start documenting, you start escalating, you start refusing phone calls, you start forcing everything into writing because writing is the only thing that survives the system's vibe filter. That's not becoming evil, that's becoming operational. But the world loves the fantasy that good people stay soft forever. No, good people get sharpened, and when they do, everyone goes, "Wow, you changed." Yeah, because disrespect is a slow poison, and one day, you stop drinking it.
And then I get punished for being direct, which is the funniest part. When I'm polite, it's good cooperation. When I'm clear, it's conflict. The content never changes, only the tone does. I can say the same sentence in my customer service voice and it's acceptable. I say it in my real voice and suddenly I'm hard to work with. So let me do it for you, sinners. Customer service Chavi goes, "Hi, yes, I just want to make sure we have a practical plan that prioritizes the child's needs. Thank you so much." Execution mode Chavi goes, "Stop dragging logistics into a moral trial. Answer the practical question. The child's day is not your stage." Same message, different packaging. And they react to packaging because the anal manual says calm equals safe. And Lena's right, it's a mask. You wear it because you've learned the system confuses politeness with legitimacy. It's like a courtroom where the nicest liar wins because they moisturize.
The derail mechanics are always the same. You start with a practical trigger, something measurable. Pickup time, sick note, schedule, safety. Then the other party, or the institution, introduces a moral accusation. You're irresponsible, you're trying to avoid, you're creating conflict. Now you're no longer planning the child's day, you're defending your character. And the moment you defend yourself, they call it arguing. They don't call the accusation arguing, of course, only your response. That's how tone policing works. Provocation becomes invisible, reaction becomes the evidence. So you have to refuse the arena. Don't enter emotional court. Don't litigate intentions. Return to facts. If they ask, "Why are you like this?" you answer, "Here is what happened. Here is what I requested. Here is the child impact." Cold, boring, repeatable. Because the calm manipulator wants you to get messy. Messy gives them material. Messy gives the system a reason to file you as complex. Complexity is where accountability goes to die.
Recommendation: deny reframing opportunities. Template spine, date, trigger, exact wording, consequence. Your response, your request. If accused of motive, restate request. If questioned emotionally, restate child impact. If redirected to tone, restate facts. Short sentences, one claim per sentence. Consistent terms. No metaphors in official communication. Metaphors are for warcast, not case files. Repeat identical phrasing across messages. This creates pattern recognition in institutional review. Inconsistency creates conflict narrative. Consistency creates documented pattern.
Also, can we talk about how the word responsibility gets used like a leash? Take responsibility doesn't mean what's best for the child. It means make my life easier. It's a bait phrase, like dangling a treat in front of your morals. So they provoke you. Then when you react, they go, "See? Unstable." Classic guilt-gasming with a clipboard. We just want what's best. Yeah, and I'm a nun in latex. They want control without looking controlling. And the system loves that because it sounds reasonable. It's the calm manipulator's perfume. And Chavi, you do that thing where you start explaining your soul to people who don't even read. You start giving them context, backstory, feelings, history, like you're feeding a hungry algorithm. Stop. They don't need your childhood. They need a timestamp and a consequence. But I admit, your boring mode works. It's disgusting, but it works. You become a spreadsheet priest, and suddenly they go, ah yes, a human we can file.
All right, I'll demonstrate the Lord's customer service voice script that still contains steel. And I want you to listen to how boring it is, because boring is how you survive institutions. Hi, Unblack happened. The child was affected by staph. I request day. Going forward, communication will be in writing only. Please confirm receipt. That's it. No extra snacks, no side quest where you justify your existence. And if they respond with, we need more information, you don't spiral. You go, what specific information is missing? Please list it. Now they have to work. Now their vagueness becomes visible. And if they try the tone police thing, you do not defend your tone. You say, I'm available to clarify the facts in writing. That's the polite guillotine. It's the nuclear compliance attack where you obey so cleanly they can't twist you without showing their hands. And Lena, yes, I sound like a corrupted ego officer, but it's a weapon. It's structure fuck as a service.
This is the no drama, all data approach in practice. You're not begging for belief. You're building a record that survives institutional filtering and future review. You write as if you're being quoted in a report by someone who doesn't like you, because that's what can happen. So you avoid adjectives. You avoid mind reading. You don't write, she tried to manipulate me. You write, she stated X when I asked Y. Exact words, exact sequence. The timeline is your knife. And you keep your requests concrete, not please help. Instead, please document this. Please advise which channel we use. Please confirm whether you consider this acceptable behavior. When they dodge, the dodge becomes part of the record. Also, reduce contact services. Fewer calls, fewer improvisations, fewer opportunities for someone to claim you said something. Written only where possible. If a call happens, you follow up with, as discussed on the phone, we agreed X. Then they either confirm or they reveal themselves by refusing. It's not paranoia, it's basic survival.
Operational closing. Reduce contact surfaces. Force traceable channels. Create repeatable documentation. Consistency over intensity. Traceability over venting. Requests over explanations. If authorities do not act quickly, create an environment where inaction becomes difficult to justify later. Institutional memory is not empathy-based. It is pattern-based. Provide pattern. Also, protect child from triangulation. Do not carry messages through the child. Do not respond to emotional blackmail delivered through the child. Redirect all adult disputes to documented channels. System will attempt to normalize chaos. Refuse normalization by maintaining stable protocol. Directive: protect the pure at all costs.
And the moral line, because I don't want the comment corpse choir to misunderstand on purpose. The target isn't revenge, it's protection. The child's reality must not be used as a weapon. You refuse guilt delivery via the kid. You refuse tell your dad and tell your mom. No, adults talk like adults, in writing, with timestamps, because the kid is not a messenger pigeon in a war zone. And yeah, when authorities don't act fast, it makes you feel insane, like you're screaming underwater. But that's why you go quiet and sharp. You don't perform pain anymore. You document it. You stop negotiating under emotional blackmail. You stop being nice in the way that just means available for disrespect. So, sinners, tell us in the comments, have you ever been treated like the problem the moment you finally spoke up? And next episode, because I know you love this, Chavi is going to teach you how to say no in a way that sounds polite enough for the anal manual, but still makes grown manipulators feel the floor move under them.
Okay, so Lena just told you that next episode I'd teach you how to say no in a way that makes manipulators feel the floor move. And I will. But first we need to talk about something that's been sitting in my chest like a riff that hasn't found its song yet. The system. Not a specific system, not Sozialtjenesten, not your HR department, not the police, all of them. The whole architecture. Because what Deraven said earlier about institutions protecting themselves before protecting the people inside them, that's not a bug, sinners. That's the operating system. And today we're going to watch it get crucified by its own contradictions. Not by us, by itself. We're just here with popcorn and a microphone.
And before he gets philosophical and forgets to be funny, let me translate. What Xavi is describing is that beautiful moment when the quiet person who swallowed disrespect for years stops swallowing. Not because they exploded, because they got organized. The villain origin story doesn't start with a scream. It starts with a smile and a headset. It starts with, "Thank you for your feedback," when your brain is actually drafting a structure fuck with a Gantt chart and a budget line for consequences. That's what they never see coming. Not the rage, the patience. The patience that turned into a filing system.
Institutions are not built to protect. They're built to persist. There is a difference, and most people spend years confusing the two. When a problem arises, the first question is never, how do we fix this? It's, how do we contain this without it becoming our liability? Procedures become shields, paperwork becomes distance, and the people inside the system who actually want to do something useful get buried under the weight of those who are protecting the institution's image. I've watched it happen in law enforcement. I've watched the clean story beat the true story because the clean story is easier to process.
Oh, and then they're surprised. That's the part I love most. They spend years building a machine that trains obedience. Sit down, speak nicely, follow the process, don't be difficult. And then one day the obedience expires, and they stand there absolutely baffled, like the vending machine they kicked every day finally fell on them. Society manufactures the pressure and then panics when the bomb doesn't ask permission before going off. It's not chaos, it's cause and effect. They just never expected the effect to have a memory.
And that's the specific rot. The memory. Because the quiet person, the one who answered every call with warmth, who swallowed every micro disrespect, who kept the temperature down because they were told that's what adults do. That person was also taking notes. Not consciously, not with a spreadsheet, but somewhere in the body, somewhere in the part of you that stopped sleeping properly, it's all there. Every time someone smiled while undermining you, every time a procedure conveniently arrived to protect the institution and not you, every "we'll look into it" that turned into a silence so loud it had its own echo. You don't forget, you just wait until the debt is worth collecting.
And the customer service voice is the mask you wear while you wait. I said it earlier and I meant it. It wasn't kindness. It was controlled rage and business casual. Because you learn fast that the system has an anal manual, and if your pain doesn't fit the format, they won't process it. So you learn the format. You sand down your edges just enough to be legible. Hi, yes, I understand your concern. Let me clarify. Meanwhile, inside you're going, "You absolute certifucked spreadsheet priest. You've been protecting the process instead of the person for 6 months, and now you want me to be legible." But you say it nicely. Because nice is the only language the machine accepts.
The gap between public values and private behavior is where trust goes to die. And it's not always deliberate evil. Sometimes it's just cowardice with a policy attached. An institution says, "We value honesty," and then punishes the person who delivers an inconvenient truth, not because they hate honesty, but because honesty creates work. Honesty means decisions. Decisions mean accountability. Accountability means someone's name on a report. So the system quietly learns to reward the people who frame things softly, who never push, who make the problem sound manageable. And it quietly marginalizes the ones who say, "No, this is not manageable. This is actually on fire.
And that's the crucifuck. They write it into their own policies. Speak up if you see something wrong. We have an open door. Our culture values transparency. And then the moment someone actually does it, actually walks through the open door with the actual problem, suddenly there's a tone issue. Suddenly there's a process that wasn't mentioned before. Suddenly the open door has 17 forms behind it and a waiting period. The system doesn't get crucifucked by rebellion. It gets crucifucked by the moment someone reads the policy out loud and then holds up a mirror. You said this. This is what happened. Explain the gap.
We're the keto version of that, because I love this sport. Someone comes at you with, "You're being difficult," and you go, "Absolutely, I can see how it looks that way. I've been very consistent about requesting the same thing for 4 months, which I imagine is exhausting to receive. So let's resolve it so neither of us has to be here anymore." You agree. You make yourself the joke. And then you crucifuck them with their own logic, because now they either have to admit the request was reasonable or explain why 4 months of patience is difficult. The blade goes in so smooth they thank you for it.
Deraven, tell him it's slow. You always think it's slow.
It is slow. Sometimes a situation requires a verdict, not a negotiation. Word Aikido is elegant, I'll give him that. But some people aren't confused, they're comfortable. And comfortable people don't respond to irony, they respond to consequence. There's a moment where persuasion becomes theater, and what's actually needed is someone to look them in the eye and say, "This ends here." Not a punchline, not a clever reframe, a line, and then you hold it. Silence after a line is the most powerful thing in a room.
He's not wrong. And the honest answer is, I use both, depending on what the situation needs. If someone is genuinely confused, word Aikido wakes them up. If someone is deliberately comfortable, you go cold. You stop being interesting. You become a wall. You respond to everything with the same boring, documented, traceable sentence until they realize there's nothing to grab onto. That's the structure fuck. You follow every rule so perfectly, so completely, that the machine has to process you, and in processing you, it exposes every flaw it was using to avoid doing so. You don't break the system. You make the system do its job so thoroughly, it breaks itself.
And that's the part society hates the most. Because they can handle the screaming rebel. They know what to do with that. Label it, dismiss it, medicate it, cancel it. But the person who goes quiet and correct, who stops being messy, who starts sending emails with timestamps and receipts and, as per our conversation on this date, that person is terrifying because there's no handle on them, there's nothing to grab, and the system was built on the assumption that the people inside it would eventually get tired and stop pushing. The quiet villain never gets tired. They get efficient.
And that's the emotional cost nobody talks about. Becoming that person. Because you don't get a parade when you stop being the target. You get suspicion. People who knew you as soft and accommodating suddenly go, "You've changed." Yes, because you finally stopped auditioning for their approval. And the loneliness of that shift is real. You go from being the person everyone feels comfortable around to being the person they feel slightly watched by. And they're not wrong. You are watching. You learn to watch. They taught you that.
And then they expect you to stay pleasant through the transition, like you owe them a soft landing for the disrespect they delivered. You used to be so easy to talk to. Yeah, because I was easy to ignore. Now I'm not. Now I respond to things. Now I have a position. And suddenly that's a personality problem. The social contract was never be yourself. It was be yourself as long as yourself is convenient and doesn't create friction for anyone with more institutional power than you.
The real villain in most origin stories isn't the person who finally pushed back. It's the environment that spent years making pushing back feel impossible. You don't create a person who stops cooperating with their own mistreatment by accident. You build them, slowly. One dismissed complaint, one weaponized procedure, one "we hear your concerns" that goes nowhere. And then when that person finally moves, finally acts, everyone looks around for someone to blame. They never look at the architecture. They look at the person who finally refused to hold it together for everyone else's comfort.
Most villains are just people who stopped volunteering for disrespect. That's it. That's the whole origin story. And the system gets crucified the moment someone refuses the assigned role. Because the role was never neutral. The role was absorb, accommodate, and don't make the institution responsible for what it created. And the day you hand that role back, the day you say, "I'm not playing the part that makes your negligence invisible," that's the day the system has to look at itself. It doesn't like what it sees. That's not your problem. That's the mirror working correctly.
So sinners, drop it in the comments. Not the rage version, the real version. When did you realize the system was protecting itself and not you? When did the customer service voice finally crack? Because I promise you, you're not alone in that filing cabinet of swallowed disrespect. And also tell Chavi that Structure Fuck as a Service is the worst business name in history, and I refuse to let him put it on a t-shirt. Next episode, the polite guillotine. How to say no so cleanly that manipulators feel it 3 days later and can't explain why. Stay venomous.
All right, so we've been deep in the system, deep in the documentation, deep in the quiet villain architecture of institutional self-protection. And Lena promised you the polite guillotine, and I will deliver that. But first I need to land the plane on something we've been circling this whole episode, because I think we've been talking around the actual core of it, and I want to name it directly. The customer service voice, the mask, the thing I put on every morning like a piece of protective gear before walking into a room full of people who would absolutely lose their minds if they knew what was happening underneath it. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about that voice. It doesn't start as a weapon. It starts as survival. You put it on because you learned very early that your real voice got you punished. And then one day you realize the mask fits so well that you can smile at someone while mentally filing them under future consequences. That's not a character flaw. That's an upgrade.
And I need to paint the picture for the sinners who haven't met him in person, because reading about it and seeing it are two completely different experiences. This man can say, "Thank you so much for bringing this to my attention," with the exact same vocal warmth as, "I will structure fuck your entire complaint into a HR violation and CC your manager's manager." Exact same tone, exact same cadence. The only difference is the temperature behind the eyes. And if you're not looking for it, you miss it. Most people miss it, which is exactly the point. The polite execution works because they never see the blade. They just feel the result 3 days later when they realize something shifted and they can't name what.
That's the warning disguised as customer service. I said it at the top and I'll say it again because it's worth repeating. Most people think a threat sounds like a threat. It doesn't. A real threat sounds like a perfectly reasonable sentence delivered by someone who has already decided. The volume is low. The posture is relaxed. The words are almost boring. And that's exactly when you should be paying attention. The screaming person is processing. The quiet person with the pleasant tone and the dead calm eyes has already processed. The decision is made. The only thing left is the execution, and they're being polite about it as a courtesy, not as a hesitation.
Right, and let me demonstrate the actual origin of that, because this is where the telemarketing years become relevant, and I want to be specific about what that environment does to a person. They train you to smile through abuse. Literally. You get a script, you get a headset, and then you get people who treat you like a vending machine that owes them something. You're wasting my time. You people are all the same. Do you even understand what I'm saying? And you're supposed to respond with, "I completely understand your frustration, and I want to make sure we resolve this for you today." Every single time. And at first you hate it, and then something clicks. You realize you're not being polite, you're being invisible. And invisible means you can do anything. The smile is the cloak. How may I assist you today? Translation. How many ways can I make you regret this call while you thank me for the service?
They trained him to be a puppet and accidentally built a predator. That's the summary. And I watched it happen in real time because I went through the same office, same headset, same anal manual of forced warmth. The difference is, I was already broken when I got there. He was just sharpening. There's a version of this where you absorb all that training and it just grinds you down. Plenty of people in that office went that route. And then there's the version where something in you refuses to be ground down, and instead, you start learning the machine from the inside. Every rule they gave him, he understood structurally. Not follow this rule, but this rule exists because of this fear, and that fear is a lever. And once you see the levers, you don't follow the rules, you use them.
Corporate speak is passive-aggressive warfare with a headset. I stand by that. And the reason it works is that it's deniable. You can't get disciplined for per my last email. You can't get called out for I'll circle back on that. The language is engineered to be weaponizable while maintaining plausible deniability. What I find interesting professionally is that it's the same pattern as coercive behavior in other contexts. Control without fingerprints, pressure without evidence. The system allows it because the system was built by people who benefit from it. And the only way to fight it is to become fluent in it and then turn it back on itself. Which is exactly what the nuclear compliance attack is. Obey so completely that the instruction collapses under its own weight.
And that's where the childhood piece connects. Because I want to be honest about this. The reason I got good at this wasn't talent. It was necessity. You get bullied long enough, you get hit in a home long enough, you get told to shut up and comply long enough, and you develop a very specific skill set. You learn to read rooms. You learn to clock who the threat is before they announce themselves. You learn to keep your face neutral while your brain is running threat assessments. And then you get to an office environment, and everyone around you thinks they're playing chess, and you've been playing this game since you were 8 years old in a school hallway with nowhere to go. The bullied kid to office predator pipeline isn't a metaphor. It's a direct skills transfer. I didn't hold grudges. I filed them. Per our records, you owe me a crucifucking, and I have the receipts going back to 2003.
He says that like it's funny. And it is, but it's also the most honest thing he's said this episode. Because the people who mock the quiet ones never consider what the quiet ones are doing while they're being mocked. They're not just surviving, they're studying. They're mapping the room. They're noting who laughed, who said nothing, who looked away. They're building a file that doesn't exist anywhere except in the body. And then one day, the file is complete, and they stop being quiet. Not because they exploded, because they finally have everything they need. That's the villain origin story. Not rage, completion.
Most people use spreadsheets for budgets. Kavi used them for bloodlines. And I mean that as a genuine observation, not just a punchline. The methodical approach to conflict, the documentation instinct, the refusal to act until the picture is complete. That's not a personality quirk. That's a survival adaptation that became a professional skill. I see it in law enforcement. The best investigators aren't the ones who get emotional about cases. They're the ones who can hold the full picture without needing to act on it prematurely. Patience as a weapon, stillness as a strategy. The moment you stop needing to react immediately is the moment you become actually dangerous.
And Wrath of the Lord. Lena said it earlier and I want to land on it properly. That track wasn't written in the studio. The feeling behind it was recorded in a call center break room at 2 in the afternoon on a Tuesday when someone had been condescending to me for 40 minutes and I had smiled through every second of it. And then I sat in the break room with bad coffee and I just let it sit in my chest for a minute. Not anger, just a very clear, very cold awareness of exactly what I was capable of and exactly why I was choosing not to use it right now. That's the wrath of the Lord. It's not a scream, it's a decision. It's the moment before the execution, dressed up as patience.
I'm sorry, did you say Wrath of the Lord was inspired by a Tuesday in a break room with bad coffee? I cried reading those lyrics. You wrote them in a break room on a Tuesday. Over bad coffee.
The coffee was genuinely terrible, Lena. It was a crime against beverages. I had a lot of feelings.
I hate you. I genuinely, completely hate you. And I mean that with my whole chest. Anyway, the polite execution. Let's give them the playbook, because this is what the episode is actually building toward. I'll circle back means I'm drafting your obituary. Let me check with my team means your life is now a group project and I control the agenda. For future reference, Xavi, say it.
For future reference is code for I will use this. Full stop. No decoration needed. Every time you hear that phrase, understand that someone just added a line to a file. It's the most polite way to say, you just handed me a weapon and I'm going to wait for the right moment. And the beautiful thing about it is the person on the receiving end usually feels good about the interaction. They think you were reasonable. They think it went well. They go home, they have dinner, they sleep fine. And 3 months later, something lands on their desk and they can't figure out where it came from. It came from for future reference. It always comes from for future reference.
Most people leave jobs. Xavi left hostages. And I don't mean that literally for the lawyers in the comments. I mean the information stays, the record stays, the pattern stays. In law enforcement, the case that looks cold is never actually cold. It's just waiting for the missing piece. And the missing piece usually arrives because someone couldn't help themselves. They got comfortable again. Comfort makes people sloppy. And the quiet one who built the file never got comfortable. They were always waiting. That's the asymmetry. The abuser forgets. The target never does. And eventually that asymmetry becomes a verdict.
Rage is predictable. Courtesy with a knife. That's how you get fired. And haunted. And haunted is the better outcome for them. Because at least haunted means they're still processing what happened. The ones who get hit by a polite execution and don't even understand it until weeks later, those are the ones who never really recover from it. Because they can't name it. They can't point to the moment. They just know something changed, and they lost something, and they don't know why. That's the smile and stab. Not theatrical, not dramatic, just precise. You don't need them to know it was you. You just need it done.
So let me do the final demo, because this is the one I want to leave you with. As per company policy, I'm required to inform you that your opinion has now become a liability. I want to make sure we handle this correctly, so I'll be escalating this to your supervisor for documentation purposes. Would you like me to CC anyone else? That's not HR. That's hostile takeover with a smiley face. That's the customer service voice as a weapon in its final form. You're not threatening, you're complying. You're following every rule so perfectly that the rule becomes the knife. Nuclear compliance. The only thing more dangerous than a man with a grudge is one with a flowchart and a CC field.
Most bands have a sound. Venomous Sin has a paper trail, and that's not an accident. The whole architecture of this band, the language, the songs, the characters, it's built on the same principle as the quiet villain. You document the rot, you put it on record, you make it audible, and then you wait for the people who lived it to find it and go, yes, that's exactly what it felt like. That's what Wrath of the Lord does. That's what Revenge of the Lord does. It's not a scream into a void, it's evidence, presented with distortion and a riff that makes your parents' marriage feel unstable.
And Sinners, that's the whole origin story. The quiet kid who got hit at home and smiled at school. The telemarketing puppet who learned to weaponize the smile. The man who filed grudges instead of holding them. The Lord who says, "Thank you for your patience," with the exact same tone as, "Your patience is why I haven't structure fucked your complaint into a HR violation yet." It's all the same person. It's all the same file. And every song we've made is a page from it. So drop it in the comments. What's your polite guillotine? What's the sentence you say with a smile that still makes people feel the floor shift? And tell Deraven his "most people leave jobs, Xavi left hostages" line is the most elegant thing said on this podcast, and it's going to haunt me for a week.
You're welcome.
He says you're welcome like he's handing you a bill. Absolutely on brand. All right, sinners, that's the quiet villain origin story. The customer service voice, the childhood filing system, the nuclear compliance attack, the polite execution, all of it. Next episode, and Lena already told you, the polite guillotine in practice. How to say no so cleanly that manipulators feel it 3 days later and still can't explain why their hands are empty. Stay venomous, and this call may have been recorded for quality assurance. And by quality, I mean your downfall. All right, let's break open occult politics. And I'm gonna do it in the softest, most compliance-friendly voice I can manage. Just for you, corporate Sweden. So picture this. A cult isn't just robes, candles, and your neighbor's weird uncle chanting in Latin. It's about who gets to write the rules of reality, who owns the dictionary. In politics, it's the same game as in any secret society, just with more neckties and less bloodletting. You get symbol management, flags, oaths, slogans, all that jazz. That's basically spell work with better graphic design and an HR department. Public morality is the performance, but behind closed doors, it's all about rituals, little sacred scripts that tell you what's pure, what's dirty, and who gets to decide. The only real difference between a parliament and a coven is one gets a budget and the other gets burned. And before Lena jumps in to mock my customer service voice, yes, I am charmingly terrifying. I can dominate a boardroom with a smile and a disclaimer. Politeness is just a leash with extra knots.
Oh God, here we go. Thank you for your feedback. I'll be executing your world order shortly. Sinners, this is what happens when you force someone to swallow disrespect until they start chewing glass for flavor. The quiet villain origin story isn't some Marvel trauma. No, it's what happens when society demands you submit, smile, and say thank you for the privilege of being ignored. People get attracted to esoteric systems because humiliation is a control kink, except nobody admits it. The church says submit, the culture says smile, but the occult? It says name your fucking enemy. And politics? That's where all those enemies meet for brunch. So, yeah, Chavi, you sound like a TED Talk from hell, but at least your customer service voice is a spell. Makes people accept nonsense like it's a loyalty program. Smile, sinner. Your boundaries are being processed.
Let's get surgical for a second. Most people hear occult politics and start panic baiting about lizard cults and pizza basements. That's not the danger. The danger is ordinary power using myth as camouflage. If you want to find real influence, don't follow symbols. Follow the money, the laws, the networks, the incentives. Evidence before paranoia. Anyone can wave a pentagram and call it a plan, but the real ritual is in the paperwork, not the drama. Most occult panic is content parasite garbage. You want a checklist? Track the cash flow, track the handshakes, track the votes. Only then maybe look at the symbols. Lena, I know I sound like a courtroom, but that's the point. Most occult politics claims don't survive cross-examination. They die in the light, not in the shadows.
See, this is where mainstream religion and your favorite hashtag cults are the same animal in different drag. Both need heretics, both need saints, both shun anyone who asks the wrong question. Sin language, cancel language. It's just mirrored excommunication rituals. Social magic. You define what's pure, you define what's filth, and then you punish the doubter. Hashtag haloed priests with Wi-Fi. Deraven, you can call my metaphors policy poetry, but at least I'm not pretending the system is ever neutral. And thank you for your feedback. It will be ignored in accordance with our anal manual.
You want to know why occult aesthetics in politics always pop up? Because being too nice is a leash, especially for women. You're supposed to be soft, agreeable, wear your little cross, and never raise your voice. But let a woman get angry, and suddenly she's evil, while a man does it, and he's decisive. So yeah, the witch archetype isn't just rebellion, it's counter-programming. If you're going to call me evil for saying no, I'm at least going to make it look fucking gorgeous. Chavi, you can keep mocking my domination branding, but branding is politics, darling. And politics is just who gets to define normal without getting crucified by the crowd.
Historically, the real intersection of esoteric and political power is in the rituals, salons, lodges, secret societies, all those fringe clubs. But you don't need to believe in the metaphysics for the psychology to work. It's operational. Initiation rites, hierarchies, secret handshakes, loyalty tests. Humans are pattern machines. Ritual is just pattern control with incense. Politics copies the method. Initiate, exclude, reward, punish. The metaphysics are optional. Chavi, I know you want me to admit I enjoy the darkness, but the real plague isn't darkness. It's stupidity. I refuse to be ruled by cringe-intellectual theatrics wrapped in gothic cosplay.
Beg for comfort, beg for ease. Fuck your Christ, get fucked by a machine and get fucked by the dogs of a...
Let's talk about the Lord's customer service voice. This is the perfect weapon for normie systems. You can say the most brutal thing. Your worldview is a liability, while sounding like you're offering to troubleshoot their Wi-Fi. Politeness launders transgression into acceptability. Step 1, confirm feelings. Step 2, deny bullshit. Step 3, structure fuck the narrative with logic so tight it squeaks. Lena says I sound like a corrupted ego officer running a team meeting. Good, because politics is just a meeting that never ends, and the occult is the hidden agenda nobody admits they're following.
Here's the thing about the good taste police, religious or secular, who say everyone's welcome until your spirituality, sexuality, or look becomes too real to market. That's when you get scapegoated. Taboo breaking is liberation, but it always cycles into backlash. Moral panics work because they offer purity as a tribe, then punish anyone who won't kneel. Deraven, you can mock me for making it personal, but politics is always personal. Pretend it's not, and you get normie fucked into obedience, one compromise at a time.
Propaganda 101. Take a symbol, twist it, use it to polarize, justify, distract. Occult accusations are just a playbook. Outrage, simplification, scapegoat, crackdown. Governments don't need to believe in magic to weaponize the fear of it. They just need the mob to. Chavi, you can call it a surveillance manual, but manuals aren't evil. Idiots are. And most regimes are run by idiots with templates. The symbol isn't the threat. The operator behind it is.
So here's the final challenge to the mainstream. Keep the right to explore all the taboo ideas you want, but don't turn them into authoritarian certainty. That's the real villain origin story. Certainty plus power, not curiosity plus shadows. Radical freedom of thought, but ruthless accountability for outcomes. Believe whatever you want, just don't become a dictator about it. And yes, I sound like a morality hotline for sinners with boundary issues.
The only real line is harm, not offense. Offense is a business model. Harm is the threshold. Xavi's polite threat style is just foreplay with bureaucracy. You want to play villain, do it with style. But if you cross into harm, you're not a rebel, you're a cliche. Branding is just the politics of who gets to define the word normal without getting crucified by public opinion.
And here's the verdict. If your occult politics can't survive scrutiny, it's not sacred. It's just a costume looking for a throne. The final test is exposure. If you want to play with darkness, bring receipts. If your rituals collapse the second someone asks for evidence, you're not a threat. You're a myth with an audience problem.
All right, welcome back to the part of the show where we stop being polite and start being, well, we were never polite. But this is the part where we let the elegant problem in the room talk. Deraven Blackthorn, you're the cop who sleeps in a coffin, plays riffs that feel like sentencing, and you have a face that looks like it was carved to deliver verdicts. So let's get into it. The system you work in, the one that preaches rehabilitation and reform, what's the lie? And don't give me the official brochure, give me the autopsy.
The lie is that everyone can be saved. It's a comforting fantasy for people who've never had to clean up the aftermath. You sit in a courtroom, you listen to the clean story, the excuses wrapped in trauma, the performance of remorse. And then you look at the file, the pattern, Not the single incident, the pattern. Some people aren't broken, they're born rot. A clit snake doesn't become a clit snake by accident. An ego pimp is engineered, not educated. You can't rehabilitate a fundamental design flaw. The system tries because admitting that would mean accepting a permanent underclass of predators, and that's bad for morale. So we pretend. We cycle them through programs, we check boxes, we create paperwork that says progress, and then they reoffend, and we act surprised. It's not surprise, it's theater.
He says, born rot, like he's describing a fruit basket. But he's not wrong. I've met them. The ones with the testosterone disease, so advanced they think empathy is a weakness. The ones with the pussy poison, who weaponize victimhood into a career. You can't reform a core belief that other people are just resources. That's not a wound. It's a worldview. And Deraven's guitar, those aren't riffs. They're structural executions. It's the sentencing the courtroom is too scared to hand down.
So you're saying the legal system is just a relationship built on convenient narratives, and your riffs are the actual closure. The eargasm of justice finally delivered. But hold on, your badge, you wear it. You enforce the very system you're calling theater. Is that cognitive dissonance? Or is the badge just the temporary tool and the guitar is the real instrument?
The badge is a key. It opens doors the guitar can't. It lets me stand in the room while the lie is being told. I get to watch the PowerPoint slut chiefs at the station present their clean, marketable version of justice. I get to see the basement rats in the comment sections later, moralizing from a safe distance, thinking they understand the weight of a decision they'll never have to make. The badge is the access. The guitar is the verdict. One lets me observe the disease, the other lets me treat it, permanently.
And that treatment, it's not gentle, is it? You talk about body control and eye contact that doesn't blink, like it's a kink. But it's the same thing, isn't it? A refusal to rehabilitate. In your personal life, you don't try to fix people. You judge if they can handle the reality of you, and if they can't, you walk. That's not a relationship. That's an inspection. So is your whole life just one long, elegant refusal to participate in the reform fantasy?
Rehabilitation requires a desire to change. Most people don't want to change. They want to be forgiven for staying the same. They want the benefit of the doubt to be a permanent subsidy. I don't offer subsidies. I offer a choice. Meet the standard or be removed from the equation. It's efficient. It's clean. And yes, it's cold. Warmth is for people who have time to waste. I've spent too many hours listening to comment corpse logic from people who've never had to hold a line. My patience for reform expired around the same time my faith in the system did.
That's the quiet villain origin right there. It's not a sudden snap. It's the slow, meticulous draining of faith. For me, it was anal policies in the office. The hashtag haloed corporate values that were just obedience conditioning with a fika break. You swallow it, you smile, you play the Zoom zombie in meetings, and one day you look at the general Chryslet across the table and realize they're not confused. They're comfortable. And comfort is the most dangerous drug in the system. It makes people cruel because they forget there could be consequences.
Most of them are too spineless to ever commit to the darkness of their own thoughts. They flirt with the idea of being unfuckwithable, but they crave validation too much. They want to be the rebel, but only if the rebellion comes with a likes and a sponsorship. That's not a villain. That's a trend fucktivist in black eyeliner. The real shift happens when you stop needing them to understand. You just need them to comply, or to be gone. The judgment isn't emotional, it's operational.
And that's where the anal manual of modern HR fails spectacularly. It's built for Instagram slaves, for people who think conflict is a typo in a policy document. It can't process real human venom. It can't account for the person who has been clickbait gutted by life and decided to fight back with precision, not volume. All those corporate abbreviations. It's just narcissist syntax, a language designed to keep the chains polite. So when someone like Chavi performs a nuclear compliance attack, they short-circuit. Their manual doesn't have a chapter for obeying so perfectly it destroys you.
I had a manager once, a total grammar bitch. She'd correct emails and group threads, weaponizing punctuation to undermine people. So I went full execution mode. I replied to every single correction with, "Thank you so much for the clarification. You're absolutely right." For future reference and to ensure full alignment, I've documented this in our shared drive under Communication Protocols, revised per. I've also CC'd the entire department so we can all benefit from your expertise. I followed every rule. I was polite, I was thorough, I was collaborative. I crucified her with her own rule book. 2 weeks later, she stopped correcting emails. The nuclear compliance attack. It's not rebellion. It's forcing the system to eat itself.
Elegant, and it proves the point. The system protects itself by rewarding compliance. So you comply. You comply with a level of intensity and documentation that becomes a weapon. The grammar bitch wanted to assert dominance through petty correction. You asserted dominance through superior paperwork. That's the structure fuck. You win by being better at their game than they are. It's why I prefer the guitar. No paperwork. Just a riff that serves as the final, unappealable verdict. The rhythm that's felt, not heard. That's the only sentencing that sticks to comment corpses.
Which brings us to the clitocracy of the music industry. The expectation to be marketable, to be a filter cunt who preaches empowerment but is secretly guilt-gasmed by her own emptiness. Venomous Sin refuses that. We refuse to be clickbait-gutted by trending topics. My venom isn't a brand. It's a direct chemical reaction to the faceless fucks who tried to cancel-gasm me for owning my past. They wanted a victim narrative. I gave them a problem. And Deraven, your elegant darkness isn't a costume. It's a lifestyle. But I have to ask, is the vampire thing a defense? Are you just avoiding being Tinder-nailed by shallow people who only see the aesthetic?
Swasta fashion is for amateurs. People who dress in black for a weekend and think they've touched the void. I live in it. The coffin isn't a prop, it's a statement. A reminder that the world is temporary, and so is your patience for bullshit. If my cold disdain is a defense, it's a defense against wasting time. I'm not afraid of being Tinder-nailed. I'm disgusted by the marketplace it represents. Reducing human connection to a swipeable commodity is the real obscenity. My eye contact requirement is the antidote. If you can't hold a gaze, you can't hold a truth, and I have no interest in lies.
Let's debate methodology then. You have your judgmental weight, the silent final verdict. I have word aikido, the art of agreeing with someone so completely you maneuver them into crucifying themselves. Which is more effective? For making a delusional validation whore admit their own hypocrisy, I'll take word aikido every time. You let them talk, you affirm their feelings, and then you gently guide them to the cliff and watch them jump. Your way is a gavel. Mine is a trap door disguised as a welcome mat.
Word aikido is for when you have time for theater. It's persuasive, I'll grant you. It makes them complicit in their own downfall. But some situations don't require persuasion. They require a line. A boundary so clear and so cold that crossing it has immediate, unambiguous consequences. That's not a gavel, it's a guillotine. The blade drops, the conversation ends. There's no debate, no clever reframe, just silence after the fact. That's the only rehabilitation I truly believe in, being sanitized to oblivion, removed from the equation. Not because I enjoy it, because it's necessary.
And that's the core of it, isn't it? The belief that some things, some people, are beyond saving. Not out of cruelty, but out of a brutal, clean realism. The system's version of rehabilitation is just a delay tactic, a way to pretend the rot isn't fatal. Your riffs, Deraven, that's the karma-fucked moment given sound. It's the closure the victim never got in court. It's the eargasm of justice, even if it's only poetic. So, sinners in the comments, do you believe in reform? Or do you believe some people are just born rot, and the only real justice is in the sentencing, not the saving?
And with that, we've let the elegant problem speak. Deraven Blackthorn, everyone. the cop who doesn't believe in reform, the guitarist who writes verdicts, and the man who probably just made half our audience question their life choices. As for us, we're going to end by mocking his serious tone, because that's what we do. Deraven, I think you need a nuclear enema to clear out all that alpha-ass clown tendency to be right all the time.
He says it like it's an insult. I think it's a compliment. Being right is his only kink. Anyway, sinners, drop your verdicts in the comments. Is rehabilitation a lie? And Deraven, thank you for not smiling. It's creepy, and we love it. Stay venomous. Next time, Shavi actually teaches the polite guillotine. Maybe. If he can stop being impressed by his own customer service voice.
A velvet-lined coffin is the most honest bed you'll ever own. No mortgage, no performance, no pretending the walls are warm when they're just painted over rot. That suburban house with the prefab lawn and the neighborly smile, that's a mausoleum with better lighting and worse company. You trade one box for another, except the mortgage one comes with lawnmowers, property taxes, and the slow death of pretending your comfort zone isn't just a grave that takes 30 years to finish you off.
Hi, yes, thank you for joining us today. How may I assist you with your existential crisis? Would you like the deluxe package with the emotional compliance upgrade, or just the standard suburban burial plan?
Real estate agents are the only people more dead inside than the houses they sell. That suburban sex life they promise, it's already embalmed. Nothing fucks slower than a neighborhood watch and an HOA that polices your curtains harder than your actual desires.
Routines aren't comfort, they're anesthesia. You wake up, you mow the same grass, you nod at the same faces, and one day you realize you've been embalmed while still breathing. I grew up watching that script and knowing it would never fit, so I chose the box that doesn't lie about what it is.
Normal people need societal approval just to exhale. It's adorable. They treat conformity like it's a personality trait instead of a participation trophy for people who are scared to be inconvenient.
Your comfort zone is just a padded cell with Wi-Fi and emotional constipation. You call it safety. I call it foreplay for your own slow erasure.
Perfectly trimmed grass is just corpse makeup for your house. You spend weekends making the outside look alive while the inside rots on schedule. That's not maintenance. That's denial with a leaf blower.
Picture the barbecue dad. Hi, welcome to the neighborhood. Would you like your mediocrity grilled medium or well done? We also have a side of slow-cooked resentment and passive-aggressive potato salad.
Those BBQ tongs see more action than half the bedroom sheets in that neighborhood. The only thing getting flipped regularly is the script they're all reading from.
Customer service voice engaged. Thank you so much for your feedback. I completely understand that your expectations got emotionally overdrawn. Let's fix that together by you shutting the fuck up and realizing politeness is just compliance with better branding.
Every "have a nice day" is another coffin nail for your soul. They train you to smile while the light goes out behind your eyes. The mask isn't protection. It's the first symptom.
Every forced smile is a practice round for emotional necrosis. You swallow disrespect until your nervous system learns war as a second language. Then one day, the mask cracks and the quiet villain steps out, wearing your old customer service voice like a weapon.
Marriage, mortgage, kids, that holy trinity of self-burial. You check every box they hand you and call it a life, while the velvet-lined alternative waits, honest and empty of bullshit.
Normalcy is just a pyramid scheme with gravestones at the top. You recruit the next generation to keep the lie alive, because admitting it's empty would mean admitting you spent decades decorating your own slow-motion grave.
Those family photos with the hashtag blessed captions are just desperation in a filter. The louder the performance, the deader the inside. I've seen the wreckage up close, and it still smells like regret and potpourri.
The coffin doesn't judge me for my darkness. It simply holds it without demanding I rebrand it as growth or healing or some other corporate wellness lie.
Introducing the Coffin Comfort Deluxe, now with extra judgment resistance and zero suburban small talk. For those tired of being alive, but not quite ready for the performance of it.
Nothing screams alive like blackout curtains and emotional constipation. Sleep hygiene trends are just another way to pretend the routine isn't already killing you softly with better sheets.
Being an outcast taught me the script was never written for people like us. The band became the place where we stopped kneeling to the lie and started playing the sound of what happens when you refuse.
Swallowing disrespect for years either turned you into another customer service drone or into the Lord. I chose the version that files the receipts instead of smiling through them.
The most dangerous people are the ones who survived being buried alive by normalcy. They don't explode. They document. They wait. And when they move, the polite execution is already finished before you feel the floor shift.
Your old office drone years were just spreadsheets pretending to be ambition. Cemetery plots for whatever spark you had left before the mask became permanent.
At least a mortgage lets you haunt your neighbors properly. Your coffin is just antisocial with better interior design.
The only thing more dead than Deraven's mattress is Chavi's sense of fashion before he met me. Both of you need professional help, and possibly an exorcism performed in latex.
Suburban life is a zombie film where most people never wake up. They're embalmed in routine, smiling through the decay, calling it stability while the rot spreads.
Have a blessed day is code for rot peacefully. The language of polite society is just embalming fluid with better marketing.
Groupthink is a mass funeral with coffee breaks. Everyone nods along because disagreeing would mean admitting the whole performance is a slow-motion burial they signed up for willingly.
I'd rather be honest in a coffin than alive in a lie. The velvet doesn't pretend. It simply waits, patient and final, while the rest of you keep decorating your graves like they're homes.
Rest in peace is for the living, not the dead. You're the ones still breathing who need the reminder that the box you chose is already closing.
Normalcy is the only kink I'll never try. Nothing turns me off faster than watching someone pretend they're living when they're already 6 feet under in everything that matters.
All right, let's land this plane on something flammable. We've been talking about systems, masks, polite executions, and I think we need a proper target to practice on. So let's roast something popular. Let's roast the techno king. Deraven, open the file. Elon Musk, the nerd who bought a personality and still can't find it.
His biggest breakthrough isn't reusable rockets. It's turning his own ego into a public relations nightmare that even his fanboys can't code their way out of. He treats the world like it's his personal, most expensive Lego set, building towers of hype while the rest of us are stuck trying to build actual houses that don't catch fire because of faulty wiring. The genius savior myth is just a marketing stunt wrapped in a glossy PR coat, and it's so hollow you could drive a Cybertruck through it and not hit a single genuine thought.
Oh, he sells rockets like they're candy, and AI like it's a new kink. But he couldn't pass a vibe check with a genuine outcast if his life depended on it. His whole self-styled savior act is just a filter-fucked version of male privilege. A bored billionaire's midlife crisis disguised as a mission to Mars. He talks about colonizing other planets while his own social skills are stuck in a basement bully phase. It's not innovation. It's a distraction packaged for the Insta-slaves who think ambition is a Tesla stock graph.
Thank you so much for calling SpaceX. How may I elevate your unrealistic expectations today? We have a special on Mars colonization for the low price of your entire critical thinking faculty. Just sign here under willing suspension of disbelief. Oh wait, execution mode. Your visionary ideas are just corporate jargon that belongs in a compliance manual written by a spreadsheet priest. You're not saving humanity. You're just creating new, more expensive ways for the ego pimps of the world to feel important. Fuck it, Venomous Sin declares fucking war on Elon's hollow self-branding.
Let's dissect the SpaceX savior narrative. It's a distraction engine. It pretends to rescue humanity from a doomed Earth while ignoring the very real, very terrestrial problems his other companies often exacerbate. It's a Mars-first rhetoric designed to make consumer-grade hype feel like a holy mission. It's not ambition. It's a guilt-gasmed escape fantasy for people who'd rather fund a rocket than fix a pothole. So, personal twist. Venomous Sin declares war on Elon's ego-inflated rocket fantasies and the cult of personality that mistakes wealth for wisdom.
The irony is so thick, you could pave a road with it. A billionaire tech king who can't even keep a stable Wi-Fi signal in his own head, preaching digital omnipotence. His AI hype is just a cheap plug for a bored rich man's need to feel relevant again. It's the ultimate dildo profit move, preaching the future while selling you a present that's already broken. So, Venomous Sin declares war on the tech savior narrative that pretends to lift the downtrodden while its architect is busy playing with toys the rest of us are paying for.
Your glitter-covered lies are a poison I'll let fester. A system built on such hollow vanity will consume itself, and I'll be the one watching from the shadows when the facade finally cracks. I declare war on every gilded facade that pretends to be salvation, while its only true function is to feed the void it claims to fill. Your empire is a house of cards, and I am the breath you didn't feel until the whole thing shifts.
Elon Musk's genius savior narrative detected. Narrative built on ego inflation and distraction economics confirmed. All references to saving humanity corrected to self-servicing ego. Public persona analyzed. Foundational myth deleted.
And that's the wrap, sinners. We've crucified the Techno King with his own Lego bricks. Drop your own roasts in the comments. Tell us what hollow idol you'd like to see structure fucked next. And get ready, because next episode, we're turning up the heat. Literally. We're burning something to the ground with Seraphina, the Fire Ashturn. We'll take the hype, the lies, the empty posturing, and we'll watch it turn to ash.
Stay tuned, sinners. The embers from this roast are just the warm-up. Seraphina doesn't just bring fire, she brings the forge. And we've got a whole new target waiting to be melted down. Stay venomous. And remember, your polite execution is only an email away.
Episode conclusion. Corrected. All false narratives pertaining to tonight's subject erased.
If you like the show, hit subscribe, share it to anyone you think should hear it.
If you ever been silenced, manipulated, excluded, we are here for you. We are Venomous Sin.
And Venomous Sin declares war!
You are not alone.